Hello, everybody. Hold on. You can actually move that across and then you can probably hear me. How's everybody doing? Just checking. Yes, mic's working. Right. Do that. Yeah, you can do it. There we go. Hello, everybody. Right. Kerry's here. Zanka, Lady Farah, Andrea. Hello, hello. Thanks for joining. I'll just turn on this. Yeah. So, and just to see you. Hello. Oops. Well, Kerry said, oh, my prayer invocation video unlocked a fundamental block for me. Wanted to thank you. It's a pleasure. Pleasure. You got caught up in feeling needy with petitions and let it go so that you could show them your devotion and prayer. Yep. It's actually a thing. It's actually kind of why I kind of try to encourage people to not focus on the spirits as much as they do, because they tend to it becomes like a vending machine. You know, you put your offering into the slot, you press some buttons, and you call your whatever it is you want forward, and you say, I gave you something, now you give me what I need. And then it's just over and over and over again. And we forget that, that's why I keep saying we need to build relationships, so that we can, have a relationship rather than making them vending machines. So yeah, but I'm glad it helped. Lady Capero said, taking a break from Hermetic Tarot studies and rune work to join the live stream. Thank you, thank you. Andrea's been ill with the flu for Christmas. Oh no, Alistair has it now. Yeah, you pass it on. Holiday season. Teak, hello Teak, and Kasim, hello, hello. Thanks for joining. Right, anybody who has not been here before, just witches getting together and discussing all witchy, magical, occult stuff. Whatever questions you've got, whatever you're mulling over, you want a different opinion, whatever it is, just put it in the chat. When you talk about building relationships, I've noticed that when working with Goetia, the spirits genuinely want relationships and do hate the Solomonic practice. I feel that as well. And I think because more and more people are actually approaching them respectfully, they are, needing that or wanting that relationship more, because it's a better, cleaner energy that they are being fed and offered. So better all round at the end of the day. Generous to a fault. Passing on your sickness. That's very generous. And you've run out of herbs. Oh no. Right. Just to... Wait, I just want to pull up this screen rather. Why is nothing coming up properly? There we go. There we go. Just to let everybody know that next week I'll still be here on this Covenstead live. But the week after I'm gonna do Patreon live for the journal tier and up. And then I'll come back so I'm going to alternate between Patreon and the YouTube Covenstead. And yeah, just carry on doing that and see how that goes. I just wanted to let everybody know. Kasim, say what is your opinion about working with both angels and demons? Can it successfully be done? I want to do both, but I tend to find there can be competition in energy. This is going to depend on how you're actually viewing angels versus demons. Um, my interpretation is probably a lot different to yours. And I think that does play a big part, because the way my interpretation goes, there is no competition in energy because there are two very different types of beings, of energies, entities. Um, so, there wouldn't be any problem. This is a bit like if you work with the planetary intelligence and the planetary spirit. In some interpretations, the intelligence is considered to be the angelic and good force, whereas the spirit of the planet is considered to be the demonic and therefore malicious or negative force. Um, Other people view it a different way. It's more of a active, receptive type of energy. I view it more in lines of the intelligence, which we could label as being the angelic force, is the bigger energy of that planet. It's like the powerhouse of the planet itself. And what you do is you kind of call that first, and it all comes down. But then, if you want to actually use that to do a particular or aim at a particular target, you've got to kind of compress it and channel it and focus it, and then you call the spirit for that, and that's kind of creates that fine-tuned, targeted energy that you need. So it's all very different views, different interpretations. And when I talk about angels, they're not singular entities, and this is not including archangels. I still need to make that video. I'm sorry, I just need to note this down because I keep forgetting. The angels and the archangels are very different. And when we're talking about angels, we're talking about forces of energies. They're not singular entities or singular beings like we would be working with if you were working with a spirit from the Goetia, for example. Like, just watch our angels. There we go. So this starts to create a bit of a difficulty because I don't like to work with angels because I don't believe they are. Although if we view it in the same idea as the intelligence and the spirit, the planetary aspects, it's kind of similar there. If you find the angel that encompasses a particular force, you invoke that force, and then you can actually line that up with a daemonic entity that will then fine-tune that energy and point it at the target to concentrate it and throw it at the target itself instead of this huge, big, massive, broad, chaotic type of energy that's coming through, which really you can't do much with. So you need to compress it, you need to fine-tune it, you need to channel it, you need to push it into a particular direction. That's how I believe they would work together if you were working with angels and demons. It's not really something I'd do myself, but that would be my approach to that, if that makes sense. But yeah, I don't think there would be a competition. If you are viewing this as the energies being competitive, then you're probably still viewing this in the sense that angels are good and demons are bad. Therefore, you have a duality, and that duality is what is creating the competition and the push and pull. That is still it's old. It's possibly old programming, and you need to sort of do some work to actually deprogram that, break away from it. So anyway, that would be my opinion on that. Andrea, payday tomorrow, so ordering more. Neighbor doth sucketh. Andrea loves Lady Capera's YouTube channel. And Kerry, Lee, is there a spirit in your Goetia? that works with psychopomps. I read somewhere that Boone talks to the dead, but needs someone that aids in crossing over. Yeah. I'm trying to think of who it is though. Because in the psychopomping aspect, I usually go straight to Hermes or Mercury. But I am a psychopomp, so gotta get that point. Oh, Anubis is usually the one that a lot of people call. Let me just see. Because I went and uploaded my Liber Daimon to how is it called? Notebook LM. So we can do a quick search through that. I'll also hang on. I'll also go through this fun news book because Boone in terms of the dead is really, for me anyway, is really the one that stands guard at the portal, the opening, the gateway between worlds, and to make sure, you know, the traffic's kind of coming through properly and good. My internet's very slow today, so I actually don't know if we're even getting it to check this. But I'm not even signed into that. That's going to be a pain. I mean, there is also, they're not part of the Goatio themselves, but there's also Euronymous. It's more of a broader death kind of entity. There's Bulbarith. Yeah, Bulbarith might be a good one to use, actually. Let me call up this. While I'm searching for that, I'll just carry on with everybody else's things. This is what I am trying to do. I am trying to de-Christianize my mindset. How do you successfully do that? It's a lifetime thing. It really is. It's not something you can just kind of like, an exercise you can do and yeah, you're done. It's you have to keep you tend to keep catching yourself in these things, and you kind of realize that oops, yeah, that was a Christian thing. That's part of Christian worldview. Let's change that pattern. So you have to keep catching yourself and reminding yourself, and that's the kind of deprogramming yourself. It's not easy, and it takes a hell of a long time. I still catch myself every now and again. Which spirits would act as a psychopath? Let's see if Notebook LM can figure that out. Andrea said, I'm a psychopomp. Alice tells me it's murder. Why would it be murder? Helping people across to get to the other side. Kerry Boone stands at the gate. Yeah, so when you're working, this is specifically in terms of, if you are doing mediumship, and you are calling the dead across to talk to them. What happens is you kind of open a gate between worlds, and Boone, you then ask Boone to actually stand there and just check that the traffic comes through okay. Otherwise, astral parasites come through. You get all this dead come through who want to all speak at the same time. It gets chaotic. So Boone stands there and just makes sure everything's cool. And then when you're finished, you close the gate properly and you ask Boone to help you with that. So very good for that aspect. Lady Pera. Oh wait, hang on. Let's see. No, that's not. Yeah, Bulbarith. These are the ones that are coming up anyway. Samael, Bulbarith, Hecate. Okay, so one that's in the glacier is Naberius. Yeah, I should have known that because Naberius is actually equated with being Kerberos, the three-headed dog that stands and guards the gates of Hades. There's also Glaciolabalas. Symbolism of the dog as a keeper of boundaries. And this spirit acts as a psychopomp by assisting with the descent into the shadowy underworld, so there's that one. And then other spirits that guard thresholds in the Vale, like Boone, would be Vareen, Astaroth. Just trying to get them from the actual Goetia. Rulers and Wardens of the Afterlife. There's Bathin. And then the supporting entities, Marax. Yeah. So from the Goetia itself, I would actually say Niberius. I work with Niberius as well. I love the energy, I love the spirit. I mean, Niberius equated with Kerberos, just, you know, is very, very close to Hecate and Boone. You know, I kind of equate Boone as being a facet or a face of Hecate, and then you've got Niberius, who's equated with Kerberos, and you've got Hecate and Kerberos, you know, in the mythologies and stuff. So there's a definite connection there, Boone and Niberius in that aspect. Lady Caperis said, did I say this already? Ampu is the great psychopompos of the Egyptian Book of the Dead. Andrew's got a silly head on. That's okay. We like silly heads. Luke's, hello. I'm not sure if I will ask anything today, but I wanted to thank you for everything you do, and you taught me a lot. I'm so grateful. Thank you for this year. So it's an absolute pleasure. Glad it was helpful. Memalek, hello. As within, so without. Hello. Thanks for joining. And Jahed, hello. Which rules exist for an altar? I mean, does every entity require an altar, or can I group them? So, you also said, why is Tiamat so popular, but not... I'm assuming that's... Well, is that Apsu? I'm not sure. Sorry, I've got a bug on my neck. So, altars. This is going to depend on which entities you're working with, and this doesn't even... You know, this isn't determined by this pantheon and that other pantheon. This is determined by how they actually go together, how they mix, how their energies kind of work together. And the only way to really do this is, if you want to group them, is to put one entity on your altar, work with it for a little while so you know how it feels. Then come along, you can actually take a second one and create a different altar, and you get to understand how that second one feels. So now you've got the feeling of how they each feel separately. Then come and put them together. If it feels bad, if it feels negative, it feels chaotic or anything like that, then separate them again. If it feels fine, good, comfortable, agreeable, you'll feel it. Then, you know, you can keep them on the same altar. And then if you want to add a third one, do the same thing. You know, kind of work with it individually for a little while so that you get to know what the energy feels like, and then put that one on the altar and see how the energies kind of gel together. Really the only way to do it. Well, I think anyway. Oh, and you want to know about Tiamat so popular but not absolute. I don't know. Really don't know. I don't work with Tiamats. Kasim, have you actually worked with the spirits of the deadly? I never have been successfully able to do that. I work with the ancestors. Part of being a witch, if you ask me. So I go and visit them, I go talk to them. I do occasionally do work in the cemetery where I go and kind of just go there and kind of sit with the dead. If there's anybody who's upset or needing help, you know, I'll kind of help them in whatever way I can. sometimes it's just kind of being a therapist to the dead. And well, yeah, and I cross them over. It's that's the natural part of me. You know, those natural abilities that you have no say over or any control or anything like that, you just didn't want in the first place. That's what I got. The ability to cross over the dead, the psychopompic aspects. Yeah, so that's what I do in regards to working with the dead. Lady Kafera, I had one Christian loony leave a comment on my YouTube studio saying he's praying for me. Obviously, how passive-aggressive can you be? I'm fairly amused in my non-response to him. You've only got one. You should see what the ones I get. Oh my god. I usually just hide or block most of them because I just can't be bothered. Yeah, they are a bit of a pain. I get some every now and again that's just I have to kind of make a dig at them. Like somebody the other day commented on the posters behind me and said that they are so wicked. How can all of you people follow this person? So I said, yeah, they are really wicked. So wicked, they're cool. You gotta just put up with this shit. And usually, if you actually want a good response to somebody who's a Christian who comes along and said that they will pray for you, you just say thank you. Because that means that they are sending you lots of energy that you can use to do your spell work. Really that simple. Andrea, sadly the interweb has a lot of those about, quote, a head full of scripture, heart full of hate. Oh, that's true. And it usually makes them vanish. Yeah. As within, should I go ahead and make my Abramelin oil on the new moon in Capricorn, or should I wait till the 3 days of the Book of the Law? If you're following Thelema specifically and they have a very specific day that you're supposed to do it, then follow that. And it's probably going to be, you know, I think the Book of the Law kind of trumps everything in Thelema. So yeah, I'd stick with that one. That would be my advice. And Alistair has disappeared. Why he's not feeling well? Of course he did. And ahead, some people say necromancy and death energy is dangerous. What is your view? Actually, what activities are considered necromantic? Alright, we can talk on this for quite a while, actually. So, is it dangerous? No more dangerous than living. It's just that, you know, it's just passing into a different phase. There are some spirits of the dead who might call hungry ghosts or things like that. They can be draining, but that's no different to working with spirits and just, you know, accidentally catching an astral parasite, something like that. You just do the work to cleanse and get rid of them. Or in a case where you want to actually help them, maybe appease them, help them, talk to them, you know. If they're hungry ghosts, it's usually because they've been ignored, and they're not being fed, and they're stuck here. You know, I actually totally believe that most Christians are actually stuck here because they don't go through proper death rites. A lot of them, I think the old Catholics, Catholic methods, Methodists, things like that, but not these new churches. You know, they see all this stuff as being evil and all of that, and death as being vile and disease-ridden and all of this stuff, and it's not. Death is a beautiful thing, but we're kind of taught that we should stay away from it because it's something, because it's opposite to life. You know, but that's because they have this mindset that at some point we end, and then that's it. But that's not the truth. We carry on going. So, itchy nose. So yeah, is it dangerous? No more than anything else. It has its dangers. Don't get me wrong. It has its dangers, but so does living, so does magic. Everything has its dangers. You know, magic is, and witchcraft is not um, roses and rainbows. It's lots and lots of thorns, and it can be very dangerous. Um, what activities are considered necromantic? So this has been a bit of a discussion for a while amongst some people, not all people. If you actually look at the word itself, necromantic or necromancy actually means divination by calling the dead. So you call on the dead and you ask them questions, and you divine the answer, or you get the answer from the dead. That's what necromancy is. That's what the word means. At one point, it became the nigromantic arts, which were kind of considered, the translation there became black arts. So it became, you know, summoning the dead. It became all this stuff which was considered to be black magic. But it's evolved. It's grown and changed over the years, and now it's become basically anything to do with death. Death, dying, the afterlife, I don't like that term, the ancestors, the mighty dead, all of that stuff, all of that tends to fall under necromancy now. So there are a lot of people that disagree with that. Totally get that, absolutely do. But you know, what I'm saying here is it encompasses everything. So even grief counseling for the living who have somebody who's died. Crossing them over, helping them understand, you know, that they are dead and they need to actually move on. All of that stuff. So everything to do with death, really. And this is why, excuse me, this is why a lot of people, and I kind of lean towards this as well, but I do kind of generally talk about necromancy as encompassing all of those things. But I do like to kind of like separate necromancy. God, what's going on with me today? Separate, but kind of not separate, necromancy from death magic. They kind of like do have a separation and a difference. It's just that death magic has been kind of sucked into the broader necromantic aspects and arts. So that's what it's all about. Lady Capera, I'm usually amused until I'm not. Totally wicked. They are totally wicked. Lady Capera was called to build a runestead or rune altar. In the process of mentally erecting it first. Oh, you're in the process of mentally erecting it. Okay. Lunar Spark, hello. Halloween, Day of the Dead, ancestral work, and other festivals, including funerals, are culturally necromantic. It's not dangerous. No, that's definitely not dangerous. As I say, there are dangerous aspects to it. When you start working with the hungry dead, they can become quite dangerous if you're not sure how to work with them, because they can suck your energy. They're like vampires. You can also, if you're not anchored properly, get lost. In that world, not this world. Well, I'm not telling you to get lost. You can get lost because you haven't got a good anchor to bring you back. That brings us to the end of that bit of the chat. I'm going to change this. I do like this mix, but it's not really what I was looking for. I'm just going to. I'll be back. I'm just going to switch off my camera and stuff. I just need to tell my daughter that the delivery's here. Hold on, I'll be back. Just trying to figure out which ones I've got to do. Right, I'm back. Go back to the chat. I'm also back, Andrew. Glad you're back. Esther was hiding in case you passed him over. Kerry, not working with lawmakers to revise. Now working with lawmakers to revise a federal law. The Uniform Determination of Death Act, as number 2 states, have a standard test for brain death, a matter of public trust, hence nefarious. Oh, okay. That's interesting. So you talk law and it just goes way over my head. Sorry. As within, so if our ego is an anchor for us, and the idea in Eastern practices is to erase the ego, how do they perform necromancy, or do they? It's an interesting question. I don't really know how. Well, I haven't really gotten too in depth or involved with Eastern death rites, actually. But you know, when we're talking about ego being an anchor, you don't need that anchor when you die. In fact, that anchor dissolves or separates. I can't really say dissolves because it still exists after death, but it does separate, which is one of the aspects that causes death, because now you no longer have an ego, so therefore you die. You move on to the next phase because that part of you is separated. But now, when we're talking about Eastern practices erasing the ego, it doesn't mean that the ego has been removed. It just means that, come up closer. It just means that kind of pay no attention to the ego itself, if I can put it in simple terms. But you know, you can't erase, you can't remove the ego. If you remove the ego, you are dead. So it's just really a difference in acting or how you approach the ego. To strengthen the ego causes it to act like an anchor, so that you have something to come back to. In Eastern, a lot of Eastern practices, they don't consider the material world to be worth sticking around for anyway, which is why they reject the ego, dissolve it. So yeah, it's kind of different, but in a necromantic aspect. How do they perform necromancy, or do they? This is where things get a bit tricky and sticky. Is because when we are calling the dead, what are we actually calling? And these are questions that I've pondered for a long time, and I cannot answer because, to give you an example, I am a psychopomp. I help the dead move over to the other side, but because of that nature, I can't call them back this way, right? But other people can, and some people can go both ways. I just can't do that. Now, when my father died, he stuck around for, was it 9 years, and waited for my mother. And then when my mother passed, they just went off together. And it was a completely and utterly different energy and feeling and interaction that I had. It was totally different. It was like chalk and cheese. He was no longer here, he was there. And therefore, the interaction and relationship became different. I couldn't just like go on a walk and say, "Hi, Dad, how you doing?" I now have to go to him in the ancestral realm. But in a lot of circumstances, a lot of people can call the spirits here. That then brings into question, what are they calling? And this is where ego tends to sometimes come into these explanations, because I don't think anybody really knows the answer. When we die, there are various different parts of our being. One of them is ego. Ego kind of acts as the glue, which kind of glues our soul to our physical body, I would say. And what happens is that separates from the physical, and therefore the soul then separates, and the soul goes on. The physical disintegrates into the earth, or gets burnt, or whatever your rights are, and then the ego is kind of here. So when people talk about phantasms, ghosts, all of that stuff, what they're often seeing is the ego, the energy of the ego. You could, I'm going to go out on a limb here, you could liken this to the Kabbalistic interpretation of the lower self, the nefesh, or the shadow self of the nefesh, the Selem HaNefesh. What's it the other way around? Yeah, I think it's Selem HaNefesh. Anyway, the shadow part of the nefesh. That's kind of like the sticky bit that kind of holds everything together, and then when we die, that kind of like becomes this phantasm. And quite often, that's what people are interacting with. But is it here? Is it there? I don't know. Is there any here and there? You know, that becomes this idea of duality again, where we're separating spaces. We're in this physical realm, and over there is the ancestral realm or the underworld or whatever, and they're separated. No, they're not. You know, they are one and the same. They are in the same space. It's just that we have this consensual reality that we have created, which is physical reality, and therefore we feel like we have to move from this room into that room, but really the rooms are actually together. We just have to think ourselves into a different room, but because we're already in the room. You know, start rambling now, but yeah, that's how I kind of view it at this point in time. Lady Clara, a pouch carried with dried lilac, larkspur, and asphodel into cemeteries on the Bane moon ensures that the mage doesn't return home with baneful spirit attachments. By the way, there's loads and loads of lore like that, and I absolutely love it. I love all of the old lore, you know, and different traditions and customs that come into play when you're doing cemetery work. It's fascinating. I mean, there's one, I don't know who it belongs to, which culture, but there's one that if you enter the cemetery in one gate, you have to exit through another gate, which becomes very difficult for a lot of people. I mean, the cemetery I go to, fairly new, and there's only one entrance and exit. It's the same one, so you can't go out another gate to kind of exit. But I love all those, you know, cover your head, because if there are other practitioners in the cemetery who are there, they can attack you. So you cover your head when you go in, you wear a hat or something. All that stuff. I love it, absolutely love it. Lunar Spark, agree. An ego is really your sense of self. Remove the ego. What is there left? Absolutely, yeah. But I mean, Buddhists and you know, all those Eastern people, and I'm not going to. I think we can include some Hindus, but not all Hindus. I was watching something this weekend that was actually talking about it was a satsang with a Hindu Babaji who was talking about the ego and strengthening the ego, and I'm like, okay, well, not all Eastern traditions that follow this idea that you have to dissolve the ego, but a lot of them do. A lot of them do. Really, Capera Kaibet is the shadow in ancient Egypt. Kasim, this is why I think the void exists. That blackness we experience destroys the ego. After we go through the darkness, then we go to another realm. Well, this is the interpretation that we're being given by various people, but if you destroy the ego and you have no ego, you die. So if you do cross the abyss, that's death. I know we have this interpretation that, you know, you kind of get to this point where you cross the abyss and then you get to the other side and you will move on to the three supernals and everything else, but an older texts within the Golden Dawn that spoke about the reaching the supernals and the masters that were in the supernals. It's not something you do physically, it's something you continue after death. But then it got this interpretation of we go through the abyss, which becomes a major dark night of the soul, really. I mean, I've done it. I think most magicians have done it. If you've been working in magic long enough, in the occult long enough, you're going to go through a severe dark night of the soul, and it's draining and it's destroying and it's horrible. And yeah, it does destroy your ego in the sense that you don't know who you are anymore. You know, not that it removes your ego. It's the idea that you have no idea who you are. You question everything. You think that everything you've been doing for years and years and years and years in magic, in the occult, in life generally, everything is just a load of absolute bullshit. Magic isn't real. It's all a load of shit. Everybody's just been telling you lies. This is the dark night of the soul, and it's this idea of crossing the abyss. But the older interpretation of that, as I said, was actual death, and to reach the supernals is the continuation after you die, you know, so you go into the next grades. But now, I don't know, it just became all different interpretation. Where was I now? I've lost it. Jahed. I see Jono's here. Hello, Jono. Do you have experience with Azrael, the Angel of Death? If so, could you please share it? Very little, actually. I did get very, very interested in Azrael years ago. When I kind of like, oh, this is a long time ago. When I kind of like discovered this whole branch of magic, death magic. It was like really cool. Obviously, it was down my little avenue because it was this psychopath, although I don't really like that aspect of myself. But yeah, I did kind of like touch on it, but not really. Didn't I can't say I really built any kind of relationship with Azrael, and I haven't really built one with Samael. I mean, Samael often gets equated with Azrael in that aspect, um, Azazel does as well. But you know, I don't really know why, to be honest with you. You'd think, being who I am, I probably would, but just haven't. Um, Lady Pharaoh Egyptian funerary magic is one of my deepest studies. It's fascinating, especially the Egyptian stuff. It's really cool. Lunar Spark, there is a lot involved, for sure. Hello, Jono. Lunar Spark said, oh yes, I've been through a dark night of the soul. It's brutal. Oh yeah, no, it is. And I think a lot of people nowadays, especially, I'm going to say it, the people who are going through the clipotic stuff and they're talking about they went through the abyss and they don't know what they're talking about, because it's like a month and I did this thing where I crossed the abyss. No, then you'd be a completely different person. Don't think they really understand what it is. I'm probably being a bitch now, but I don't care actually. Sick and tired of it. Kasim, so when most people come back from the dead reporting they saw nothing but blackness, what do you truly interpret that as? Well, that happened to me. I saw nothing. I became nothing. And I think that's an important aspect as well of this particular thing we're talking about, is that you don't just see nothing. Well, I don't know, maybe some people just don't see something. I became absolutely nothing. And that was part of the process that I had to go through in order to become who I am, which is a pain in the ass. But yes, I am a pain in the ass. Jono will like that. um, but yeah, you become nothing because in order to understand everything, you have to understand nothing. And because something had to come from something, and that something was nothing. So you have to kind of experience all of it. And when I died, I really became a nothing, a nothing. I didn't even. I had to kind of fight my way back. And I always joke because I always say that cornflakes saved my life, and it's kind of true actually. Because you get to the state where you haven't got a name, you don't even know remember that you were human. You've got no ego. There's nothing. You are nothing. Absolutely zero, zilch, nothing. And I kind of like grabbed onto this memory of cornflakes because I had cornflakes that morning. And then that started a cascade. So I remembered, oh, hang on, I'm a human being. Oh, I have a name. Oh, I have a daughter and a wife. And it just cascaded and then it brought me back. Um, so what do I think it is or interpret it as? The, it's the bridge. I would say it's the bridge because there's a point where you get to where, as I said, you kind of like become nothing. It's the darkness, it's the void, the nothingness, and everything else. And there's a point where you either continue or you come back. If you continue, that's it. You're gone. You're dead. If you come back, then you come back, and you have what people call a near-death experience. But crossing that bridge, that's the bridge. That's the point where you either are living or you're dying or dead. And there's no choice, what's one or the other, because that's the point, that's the barrier. And that's what I think that is. That's again my personal interpretation. Remember, everything I say is my own personal interpretation. It doesn't need to be everybody else's. There's lots of... I love this guy. This album's brilliant. Yes. So, as within, Dark Knight is brutal. Are you talking about the Dark Knight? Are you talking about Batman now? No, sorry, I'm just kidding. No gods, no magic, nothing, no thing, just simply faith that you'll make it. Well, that's the thing. You don't have any faith either, because when there's nothing, there is no belief. There's no faith. There's absolutely nothing. Nothing. Yeah, it's kind of strange. I am obviously curious about what happens when you get to that point and you don't. As I said, I kind of got a memory which cascaded. What happens if you don't do that? I'm assuming that's when you move over, and I can't go there. That I know of, anyway. Jono, 2 weeks ago at the end of the stream, someone asked about Yaldabaoth or the Demiurge. All it is the idea that the God of Abraham is not as nice as the Christians think he is. Yeah, yeah. He's the little boy who thinks he knows everything and sits on his little throne and throws tantrums because he thinks he created the entire universe. Yeah. Lady Pera, kind of like people who got to drumming circles for a weekend retreat and suddenly they fucking shot. Yep, that's it. Yeah. Kerry, Lee, that nothingness is that nirvana. I'm not entirely sure because I haven't really broken down the concept of nirvana enough to come to a conclusion about that. From what I believe, from other people's interpretations, yes, probably. Although no, that's no. Hang on, let me just do a quick search over here, because nirvana's usually considered to be the paradise, and that's the point after that nothingness. That's that, as I said, the nothingness is kind of like that bridge, the barrier, and you either go that way or you go this way. That's nirvana is therefore going that way, as far as I know. Anyway, I can't really draw a conclusion to this. No, not the band, the concept. Why did the band come up when I searched nirvana? Is the extinguishing of the passions, the blowing out of or quenching of the activity of the grasping mind and its related suffering, stresses, and unease. Nirvana is the goal, when Buddhist path, and leads to the soteriological release from dukkha, suffering and rebirth in samsara. Nirvana is part of the third truth and cessation of dukkha. So nirvana in concept is the release from samsara. So you're not being reborn. I actually think this is a completely different concept to this nothingness, to be honest. God is the highest or supreme religious goal. Yeah, I'm going to have to go back into this and do a good study and whatnot. But it's probably, as I say, it's probably not the same thing. I think this is a very different concept. I'll have to let you know at a different point. Andrea's back again. Sorry if anyone messaging me. That's not a problem. You visited home. It's ineffable. What are you meaning by home? I'm talking about the underworld. Jono, I did my Dark Night of the Soul, still recovering years later. I learned a lot, but wouldn't recommend. 2 stars out of 5. Like the rating system. That's pretty good. Yeah. Um, it's really not a fun thing to go through, and it does take a lot of time to recover from it. What actually is very important if you are going to go through a Dark Night of the Soul, or you're going through one, is community. Find a community that is strong and that is yours and is personal. I'm not talking about Facebook groups with thousands of people on. I'm talking about a tight-knit community, people you can trust, um, people who can help you through the process. Even if they haven't been through it themselves, just people who can sit there and listen to you rant and rave and talk about shit and not judge. Those are the kind of people you need when you go through this. I didn't have that when I went through it. It took me several years to get through it. And when I came out the other side, it took me, God, probably another several years to actually try and find my way back, because I couldn't figure out what to do next. It's destroying. It is absolutely destroying. But if you've got a community, it does make it a lot easier. You know, you can talk about it. You can say, I'm absolutely pathetic, I'm shit, this is all a load of rubbish, you people are stupid, and, you know, you're all talking crap. You know, say those things to a community of people that you can trust, and they will sit there and go, okay, we hear you. Now let's talk about it. You know, no judgment. They know what you're going through. They know you're going through a dark night of the soul, and they're there to support you. That's what a community is. And it's not easy to find nowadays. It really isn't. Alright, as with him, the High Priest, Satanist, Shaman, Clipos King. It's a good one. Lunar Spark, I think there's a difference of a weekend shamanic drumming retreats, leaving with renewed sense of self and connection versus people using a title to fill something they're missing. Yeah, but you know, the problem here is that a person cannot call themselves a shaman. In same respect, a person cannot call themselves an elder. That's not a person's decision to make. That's the community's decision. That's what the community decides you are. You are a shaman, or you are an elder. You know, all of these titles that we kind of, you are a priest, you are a priestess. These are titles that the community gives you, not a person. You know, somebody who starts calling themselves a shaman just because they did a weekend course, and it happens a hell of a lot. I don't know. It's just it doesn't make sense to me. It really doesn't. But yeah. Sappho, hello. I haven't seen you in a while. Congrats on episode 75. Thank you very much. How's everyone's worldview holding up? Yeah, tenuous. Andrea, sorry, another text. That's okay. Home was the NDE I had. Oh, okay, yeah. I did not want to come back here until things were explained to me. I had a very different experience than I did then. Mine was terrifying when I realised what was going on, you know. But that's the other thing with this stuff. Everybody has a different experience. So, you know, is this nothingness that people report, what is it? It's probably different for me than somebody else who experienced it. It's not everybody experiences the nothingness. Some people experience a tunnel of light. Some people experience friends and family greeting them. You know, all different experiences. So because it's a big, vast world with no absolute truths. So yeah. Lady Capera, this may be surprising weird for me to admit, but I read Saint John of the Cross during one of my early age dark nights. Yeah, not at all. If it brought you solace, that's what you needed at the time. Because, you know, as I said, Dark Night of the Soul is crazy shit. And you need some solace when you're going through it. So if it brought you that, Perfect. That's what you needed. John, a good point on call. Dark Nights of the Soul isn't a bad weekend or a bad year. It's a difficult decade where you lose everything. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Lunar Spark, gotcha, misunderstood. Totally get what you mean, shaman. Oh, okay. No problem. Yeah, as I said, I keep saying over and over, the other thing that we have to remember when we're in discussions like this is that people have different interpretations of various words as well. So we kind of like end up having to learn each other's language. Might all be talking English, but our language can be very, very different sometimes. Jahed, what do people mean when they talk about astral attacks? Is it like fighting in your dreams or nightmares? So usually that's kind of a broad term, and I say broad because they use the term astral in a broad sense. When we're talking about astral in that broad sense, it's everything which is not physical. It's not mundane. So it comes from dreams, it comes from the other worlds, all of that stuff. And in dreams, it could be somebody who can do dream walking. They've entered your dream and they're attacking you. It could be parasitic entities or just negative energies that are attacking you. It's to say, it's just kind of like, this isn't just in your dreams, it's in waking life, which is also a dream, but it's in waking life and everything else as well. It's just an attack from an astral force. Some people might refer to that as being psychic attacks, term for all of that stuff. Kasim, I went through a brutal dark night. To be honest, the only thing I can't see the point of it, to be honest. So, there's lots of reasons why we go through it. I think one of the main reasons is it's the hero's journey at the end of the day. So you've gotten to a point where you've learned all this stuff, you're practicing all this stuff, and all of a sudden you are thrown deep, deep, deep into the abyss. Can't believe I just used that word. The cauldron is another way of putting it, where the Dark Mother takes you through the cauldron, and if you make it through the other side, you're kind of like a new person type thing. You could actually liken this to an actual shamanic death that people talk about. Yeah, I went through one of those as well. But it's kind of like you are thrown into this sinkhole and you are made to question everything. Your entire out or viewpoint on everything changes. You just don't believe anything is real anymore. That everything is just a load of crap, and that tests you. It puts you through the ringer. And it destroys you, and it really is a kind of a shamanic type death, where your entire being is completely and utterly destroyed. It's pulled to pieces. It's ripped apart, and it's thrown in all different directions, and then all the pieces start to come back together again. You rebuild yourself, and you become a different person, a completely different person. And that is part of the hero's journey, is to go through that thing, and then when you come through the other side, you have to do something with it. For me, it is, I've always been a teacher. It's been probably the one job that I really enjoyed when I was, the actual teaching. I'm talking about teaching. I was teaching interior design students, but it's the one job that I really, really enjoyed, and that was teaching people, molding young brains and all that stuff. And I've always been a teacher, so for me, it was just bringing all of that stuff that I'd learned and giving it to people, because that's what I needed to do. If I have a friend who once actually said to me that the hero's journey is to go through the process of learning and then go through the underworld, get ripped to pieces, come back up, and then you have to pass the knowledge on. If you do not pass the knowledge on, it is taken away from you. And I don't want it taken away from me, so I'm passing it on. That's what I'm doing. So that's what I think of it anyway. Andrea, it just felt like home, absolute unconditional love, and very difficult to describe. Yeah, I kind of get that. I didn't have that same experience, but I do get that. I do understand that. Have I got gremlins? Hold on, am I back again? Have I still got gremlins? Where's the thing that tells me? Oh, here. Excellent. Alright, I think I'm back, alright. Sepho, this winter solstice stuff has been beating me down. Is it just me? I haven't heard anybody else mention it, so I'm not sure. What's going on? Why is it beating you down? Gizmo Kaka. Gizmo Kaka. You people come up with the coolest things. Kerry, what's up? Got the winter blues. Sepho, the energy, it feels chaotic. But I'm not very good at the astral part of it, so to know which planetary energies are doing. Oh, it's probably, I don't think it's the solstice, it's just generally at the moment we're going through a bit of a shit time. Just generally all over the place. So just hang in there. It will eventually get better. Eventually, I'm talking like March, I believe. Just hang in there, really. Jahed, Dark Ice Soul, alchemical process starting with Negrido, new order out of the chaos, the ruins of the old world, nothing to cling to equals my current phase, but that's what brought me to magic. It's good analysis. Lady Cupera, I like the archetype of Ceridwen and the Cauldron Gaelic tale. It is quite a good tale, that. That's that's the story of Taliesin, isn't it? Or was it the other dude? He had a name before he became Taliesin. Ceridwen's Cauldron. I can't type it at the moment. I feel like I'm regressing. Guion, that was his name, leading to his rebirth as the great poet Taliesin. I love that story. There was also a stage phase where I was doing all the Welsh stuff, reading. I was studying the Mabinogion, all of that stuff. Loved the Welsh mythologies. Be right back, family again. Oh, busy family you are. Jono Kasim, it's critical if you want some sorrow. You need it to be enlightened enough to break the wheel. You learn to understand the human experience, including suffering, but it's not something you need. That's a good way of putting it, yeah. Or need to do in this lifetime. Yeah, it's a good way to put it. I like that. Kerry, at Sepho, it would be nice to have Rev Kai here to learn what kind of transits we have going on. Yeah, that's not going to happen. But you can get hold of Rev Kai if you actually want to go and get a reading. Just go to their website. As we then, could we equate Could we equate dark night to the soul as going up and down the tree reaching dart? That's one interpretation. When you get dart is considered to be this abyss that you then cross into the supernals. So you could say that, yeah. That's one interpretation. And Andrea's back again. Hello. Is anybody here on my Patreon and following the Pentacles series that I'm doing? I've lost some feedback on that. If it's good or not. The Kimri called the great enchanter Meothin Emrys, living archetypal force. Yeah, no. Meothin is Merlin, sorry. The great enchanter. The great wizard. And Meothin Wilt was Merlin the Wild. That's when he became the wild man in the forest, and all of his friends were animals and trees and plants and stuff. He rejected humanity. Can't blame him for that. And then he disappeared. Just poof. Just poofed out of existence. Jahed, do you have any advice regarding Boone? Things to consider. Not really. I think you should have your own experience there. Boone's is a loving spirit. I do find Boone to be very gentle. Yeah, I don't really want to taint your experience. That's the problem, right? One of the reasons I don't really like talking about my experiences with the spirits too much, because it taints other people's experiences. I mean, I can tell you that in my experience, Boone is a facet of Hecate, which I've mentioned before anyway. But yeah, I just find her energy to be very calming, very. I don't really want to use the word gentle, to be honest. It's seductive, actually. If I think about it. I work with Boone on Fridays mostly, so it's got a Venus aspect. So if you want to do offerings, think in terms of Venus. I don't want to give too much away. As I said, I don't want to take your experience, because I find people read like the Goetia and they read what the spirit looks like, and then that's what they see. But really, just suspend all expectations, work with the spirit, see what happens. And I mean, if I say that the spirit feels gentle and is a lovely energy, and you clash with that energy, you're gonna have a totally different experience. So just see what comes. Damn the Bod just carried him. Yes. Yeah. Damn the Bod is great. I love Damn the Bod. Lady Clara says she's seen him. Andrea, Boone can get a bit frisky. Have you had that experience? Yeah, yeah. That's why I say it's not really a gentle, it's more of a seductive energy. I mean, she presented herself as naked to me and lay next to me in my journey, but it actually wasn't sexual. It was it was loving. It was I don't know. Can't explain it. It's an experience you have to go through. Um, Go ahead, thank you. That already helps. Okay, cool. Lady Kafera, I'm gonna have a check-in. Have to check him out again. Oh, down the bar. Yeah, no, he's really good. Jono, as within, I think there's a lot of truth in early Kabbalist ideas, and um, the big thing was everything can be explained by the tree. Nah, don't know about that. There's a lot more to Kabbalah than the Tree of Life. A hell of a lot more. I mean, you've got to remember that the tree only really become popularized with Lurianic Kabbalah, which we actually checked this the other day. I think it was like 14th century. Um, Before that, it was a whole lot of speculation and different maps and everything else. Um, but yeah, I think they only really formalized this idea of the tree with Lurianic Kabbalah. But there's a whole lot of other Jewish mysticism, Jewish magic. It's broad. That's huge. Um, just going back to Dan the Bard, doesn't he do a New Year's like live stream, a concert type thing on his YouTube channel? I'm sure he does. Might not be New Year's though. It might be some other event. Kerry, work with that spirit. You will be surprised with what they reveal to you. You're talking about Boone. Boone's just Boone's fantastic. The Truth. Hello, hello. I've never really worked with Boone. That's okay. Don't have to. You know, this is what I say. I mean, a lot of everybody kind of asks, you know, what's your experience with this spirit and that spirit? And I haven't worked with half of the spirits people ask me about because I've had no reason to. If you haven't got a reason to work with Boone, then you don't work with Boone because you don't sort of go knock on your neighbor's door and go, hi, I just wanted to see what you look like. You just don't do that. So if you've got a reason to go there and knock on the door, then sure. Loton, companionship, Pushti Divas. What are we talking about now? Haven't got. Oh, Loton. Andrea. Haven't forgotten about the Ellos. Just been a bit run off my feet recently. John, are you right, Uncle? The tree wasn't in the Sefer Yetzirah. Yeah. No, I mean, as I said, it's been a development. I've got to say, if anybody is interested in practical Kabbalah, I always talk about Jacobus G. Swart. He released a second edition of his first book, the Book of Self-Creation. It's got a lot more in the first part of that, which actually goes through the whole history of Kabbalah, how it evolved and went through. And pre-Lurianic, it's just really is a huge section now. It's really good. Yep, there we go. Right, let's check down the board. I've got it, I'm spelling it wrong. No, I'm not. Down the board. Yeah, it is Sim I'm thinking of. He does house concerts. Just going through this. It's gonna make noise in my ears. And let's see if it's actually a New Year thing. Andrea, no problem, alerted. There we go. Rescued an aloe from my old bed set. It's revived fantastically. Right, let's have a look. Videos. Oh god, last time he uploaded anything was 11 months ago. To his YouTube anyway. Oh, wait a minute, maybe it's live streams. When did you do the last one? Oh no, he's just doing, yeah, it seems he's just doing live streams. So, I think he does a live stream like once a month, by the looks of it. The Tea with the Druid seems to skip. It says Tea with the Druid 252 and then Tea with the Druid 358. So, oh, it seems like he's deleted a lot of stuff from his channel. But yeah, the last stream was 7 days ago, so which was a house concert 69. So it looks like he's still active. I could have sworn he did like a New Year's thing. Anyway, alright, fine. Let's go back to the chat and the music. There we go. Some good old Kate Bush. The truth. What would you consider to be Clawneck primary planetary correspondences? To me, he comes across as quite an airy spirit. I actually feel it's quite earthy with Clawneck, to be honest. Planetary aspects. What would Clawneck be? I would actually consider Clawneck to be associated with the sun. That's the kind of energy I would feel anyway. It's about the self and ego and, you know, expansion of the self and all that stuff. Let's just see what other people kind of gave us their opinion. Andrea said no, it's just had a pup. Oh, the aloe. Okay. Yeah. Don't remember your dog being pregnant. I didn't think your dog could be pregnant. Let's just see. Yeah, you see the correspondences I've put in Libra Daimon is planet Mercury and element air, which is what other people kind of view Clawneck as being associated with. But yeah, it feels more earthy and sun-based to me. The energy I worked with anyway. Dum, dum, dum. Kerry, I bought a pair of black pearl earrings in honor of Leviathan and wear them. Does this sound reasonable? Yeah? Yeah. Leviathan is often considered to, you know, we kind of think of Leviathan as the sea monster, but a lot of people kind of view Leviathan as the healer within the black waters, the dark waters, which kind of makes sense. It's definitely a good feeling when I think about that. So yeah, black pearl earrings would be great. A lot of black. I'm talking about stones now, though, not really pearl. But I mean, a lot of the black stones, tourmaline, onyx, obsidian, etc., etc., are usually used to absorb negative energy. So it'd be a very healing Leviathan type of aspect, balancing the emotions and whatnot. Makes sense to me. The truth, yeah, I agree. I do personally get a solar vibe from Clawneck, but not as much as some of the Goetic kings. Yeah, this is why I don't really like to. When I think about the Goetic king or Goetic spirits in general, I mean, I know we've got this kind of like ranking system that associates them with various different planetary aspects. I don't really like that myself. And I do think that when we work with these particular spirits, depending on what we're actually doing at the time, they can come across with a very different energy. And that energy shifts and changes and can be associated with different planets. So I don't really like tying them down. The only way I would tie them down to a planet is if when I relate them to a decan, and that decan is associated with a particular planet. But that's a different thing altogether. So, you know, don't know. Not really my thing. Jono is very adamant that aloes grow so slow they're as difficult as orchids. Well done. Okay. He's very adamant about that. And also said, Jono also said this might be Aldebaoth telling Uncle to go to sleep, or am I the only one buffering? Oh, maybe I should go to sleep. Am I buffering again? I'll just check the temperature over here. It still says excellent. Hopefully I'm still okay. I think your computer actually froze because I don't know if you meant to type that particular 2 sentences multiple times. Yeah, I think your phone or your computer kind of had a bit of a hitch there. Stormy, hello. And Lowton said they really do, but when they get comfortable, they propagate like mad. Repetition. And as with them, yeah, Leviathan is like a happy uncle or grandfather that gives you a hug after a bad school day. Yeah. It's kind of how I view Leviathan as the elemental king of water. Let's put it that way. This is what I say again, no. We kind of interact with Leviathan as this entity, this being that, you know, brings emotional balance and all of this stuff. But Leviathan is also this primordial being that is so massive and so powerful that you won't be able to interact with that entity as a human being. So, you know, whether that's an egregore that we interact with or not, I don't really know. To tell you the truth, I don't really care. As long as something happens. You know, whether it's an egregore or not. An egregore is just as powerful as a god. They are gods. So, yeah. But yeah. Lowton, speaking of primordial water entities, have you seen much about Rahab? No, I haven't. It does ring a bell, but I can't think why. Who was Rahab in the Bible? Is this the same Rahab? Rahab was a prostitute from Jericho during the Israelite conquest of Canaan. How do you guys say it in America? Canaan? Is that what we're talking about here? Not the same Rahab. Okay. I'm not sure. Right. The truth, yeah, I don't really buy into Goetia as power ranking kind of things. I just mainly work with solar spirits. Yeah, this is the thing though. I know you got this hierarchy, kings and princes and prelates, and etc., etc. And it's not supposed to be viewed as this hierarchy or this power hierarchy. It's just putting them into various categories. Like I was talking about the Solomonic pentacles. You know, you have the pentacles for the moon, the pentacles for Mercury, and the pentacles for Venus, etc., etc., etc. And it's not that they you have to work with them during the day and hour of Venus or their respective planet. It's just that it's the ones that hold a particular aspect or idea or office that get placed into those particular planetary categories because the planetary kind of holds that energy. So it's just what they do, therefore they get put into that room or put into that room. It's not really, you know, it's just about what their job is at the end of the day. Probably the easiest way to put it, what their job is. Story, I could use a hug from Leviathan. We could all use a hug from Leviathan. I can give those 3 messages. Given those 3 messages, I think it might be on his side. Probably, yeah. There was some hitch. Stormy, did you all see the massive temple that was built in Turkey for Hecate way back when? Just gorgeous. Have they done a reconstruction of it? Because I mean, it's basically just ruins at the moment. That was the one in Anatolia. I think we're talking about the same one. Lowton, you'll be able to find his Wikipedia page by looking for Rahab term. Okay. Ooh, right here. Oh, okay. Refers to a mythical sea monster, a poetic name. No, that's something else. So the Rahab mythical monster.
Couples naked race down by its quiet side, and we laugh like soft
Wow.
The music and voices are all around us.
How does that relate to Leviathan? Because that's not one of the 3 primordial beings that are spoken of. Oops. Go on, there you go. Leviathan typically depicted as a massive dragon, and Rahab sometimes specifically symbolizing Egypt or the primordial chaos. Okay. That's going to be a rabbit hole I can't go down right now, so we will continue. Lowton, he was essentially the Hebrew equivalent of Tiamat, Apsu, and Yam, all mixed into one, from what I can tell. Okay. Basically a god of the primordial abyss. See, that would be different to the primordial seas, primordial waters. That would be a different thing. But there were 3. There was the waters, the earth, and the sky, as far as I remember. The sky one was this big weird bird. I don't remember. No, I spoke about them somewhere. As within Rahab is another form of Leviathan, in my opinion. Yeah, could be. I mean, may have been a different area. They just had a different name for that particular primordial being. Lowton and death, according to the Babylonian Talmud. John, I'm back, and I'm blaming YouTube. Okay, that's fine. Blame YouTube. We all have to blame YouTube for something. The truth, Leviathan is cool. Only ever had limited interactions with him, but from my interaction, he seemed to like storms at the ocean and rainwater. Oh yeah, absolutely. Storms at the ocean are like, yeah, that's the movement of the waters. Best way you can get it. Yeah. Leighton is he is associated with Leviathan, but it would seem he is not the same thing. Doesn't seem to be, but yeah. So that's a big old rabbit hole. Oh, hang on. There is something here somebody mentioned, but Rahab is north and Leviathan is south to the psalmist. That's interesting. Maybe it is a regional thing. Don't know. Lorton, he predates the three primordial beasts according to the mythology. He says, how can he predate the primordial beasts? They are the primordials. There is nothing before the primordials. He existed before Yahweh arrived. Oh, that was long after that. And got into trouble for refusing to part the primordial waters. Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure about. Don't know about that. Andrew, I'm sorry, but I have to leave early. Okay, no problem. Have a good New Year's, and I will see you next week. Have fun. Excuse me. Oh, it's getting bedtime almost here. Right, what do you want to talk about next? Lodson, that's the interesting thing is mythology implies he existed before, well, everything. I don't know, it's a bit of a strange one if you ask me. Jono, part of me thinks Leviathan was crocodiles. Hemoth was hippopotami. Yeah. You're missing the third one though. What was the third one? It had a Z name like Zabub or something like that. Oh, Ziz, that was it. Ziz, the bird. Although hippopotami are more kind of like land water animals. Behemoth, it's usually depicted like a bull or something like that. No, anyway. See you next week. Yes, Andrea, we'll see you next week. Have a good one. Alistair, shit, I'm late. Yeah, you got to go now. Because Andrea's left. Oh no, I'm still here. Don't worry. I'm just saying goodbye to Andrea. Here's one of the reasons I feel quite drawn to him. Honestly, it says, yeah, there you go. The great bird. As within, Baal keeps knocking. Again. You're not allowed to do spirit work yet. You're busy with other stuff. The truth, Baal is awesome. Right, what's next on the agenda? Oh, my first two workshops next year are going to be building a spirit box, vessel, fetish to draw spirit into, and the second one so far is actually going to be creating a familiar. It was going to be sigil work, but I need to change that. I wasn't happy with it, so we're going to do how to create a familiar. There you go. That's going to be fun. So look out for those. Jono Baal is who I think I've actually been praying to. Possibly. Well, it does just mean Lord. So if you've been praying to a Lord, that's probably why. And try to invoke Baal, and there's Baal's N. Just remember though that when we talk about Baal, which is the first spirit of the Goetia, that's quite often considered to be an aspect. Whereas if you talk about Baal Hadid or Baal Zabub, etc., etc., so these are all different lords of different things. Yes, Lowton, there are indeed many Baals, because there are many lords. So bear that in mind as well. Kerry, I like Jason Miller's Consortium of Spirits. It's friendly evocation. I do actually need to make a new batch, because the last batch I made didn't actually work out too well. But actually the new batch, I want to actually get some good champagne yeast and use that. Also need to get a, what's it called? Hydrometer, I think, to test the alcohol content. But yeah, need to make a new batch. Chemosh was a Baal in fact, though it would seem his Baal titles were Baal Pure, which is Belphegor, and Baal Mion. Yeah. And Jahed, can you talk about the difference between the Loa, Voodoo, and the demons, Goetia? Could you talk about your experience with Papa Legba? I can't, sorry, can't. The first question there, I'm not a voodoo practitioner. I would never pretend to be. In broad strokes, I would say that they are very, very different entities. They are definitely not the same entities. The Lua and the Goetia spirits, no, very different, from totally different areas of the world as well, from totally different cultures. And the Lua are very, very different to, if we consider the Goetia spirits to be Jinn, they're very different to the Loa. And I can't talk about Papa Legba because I'm not part of that culture, and it would be I wouldn't feel right doing it anymore. I've kind of grown. I just feel I would feel uncomfortable doing it because it would feel appropriative, to be honest with you. Light and lower are more akin to the typical ideas of angels, and yeah, and yes, and just I'm glad you used the term typical idea of angels, but yeah, I kind of agree with that in that same kind of vein, as well as ancestral spirits. Oh yes, absolutely, yeah. Although I mean, when we talk about various spirits we work with and the ancestor spirits, there's a lot of traditions that believe that the gods, I mean, I'm talking traditional witchcraft, believe that the gods are our ancestors. So, I mean, we could even say that the Jinn and the Fae and all of that are our ancestors. So, can't really separate those. Kerry, are you and Rev Kai still doing Wildwood chats? Not on YouTube, no, not anymore. Finished. For safety reasons, to be honest. Lowton has quite a few videos on YouTube about them, though. What were we talking about now? Are we talking about the Baals or the Loa and the demons? I'm not sure. And the ancestors. That's all come up in the last like 4 or 5 chats yet. Talking about lots of spirits now. Oh, the Loa. Yeah, you have to be careful. I think you have to be careful about what you watch on YouTube, most especially with that. There is a lot of appropriation when it comes to voodoo and the lower and such things. Definitely have to kind of poke it with a stick and see what happens. If anyone wants to know more about them. Look, there's some good stuff, but as I said, with everything on the internet, there's a lot of rubbish as well most of the time. It's difficult. Am I buffering again? Yeah, my internet's a bit slow because I capped, and so I'm waiting for the new month to come along. I am poor. My signal is poor. Listen, by authentic practitioners of voodoo, I should specify. Yeah, it's a very good thing to specify. I just, yeah, I don't know. It gets very tenuous. I like how you get this error. I get this error. YouTube is not receiving enough video to maintain smooth streaming. As such, viewers will experience blah 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 blah. I'm here. I'm fucking talking and everything else. What else do they want me to do? Okay. Am I still buffering? I'm going to put in the chat, just in case I am. Am I still buffering? No buffering. Okay. Cool. I think I have a bit of a delay regardless. Oh, there's always a delay. There's about a 2-minute delay between what I see on the chat and when you type it. Or when you type it and when I get it. There's about a 2-minute delay, so that's why. Kerry, tell me about Azrael. Azrael is considered to be the angel of death. Often gets equated with Azazel and what's the other Az? Hang on. Let's go have a look. Because we have the internet. It's really cool. Maybe not. Maybe I'm thinking of something different. Yeah, it's Azrael is considered to be the angel of death. Is a psychopomp. As we know, psychopomp guides spirits across to the other side. This other bloody name I'm thinking of it. Azazel is. That. It's not giving me what I'm looking for. So, yeah, Azrael is the angel of death. There you go. Leighton said one of the angels of death, at least. Samael and the aforementioned Rahab being some of the others. Rahab got around. He's been a god, an angel, a demon, and a sea monster, depending on the time period. They do tend to evolve and shape and shift and everything else. Check this. Oh, wait, no, wait, no. No, that's still Azrael. My brain's taking a dump. Please excuse me. Yeah, I do think it's kind of wrong to equate Azrael with Azazel. They are very different. Very, very different. Kerry, can you spell his name for me so that I can research him further? Well, we've got Azrael, which you mentioned, which is the angel of death. And then we have Azazel, which is the leader of the Grigori. Leader of the Grigori. No, there was a third one. Yeah, sorry, Loton, you asked if I'm thinking about Azazel. There's a third name, and I'm sure there's a third name. Unless I've gone completely and utterly bonkers, which is completely, yeah, could be. Loton, in his case, it seems to have been a result of deliberate attempts to demote his status. Probably, yeah. Also happens a lot with others. They're very different. As within Abaddon, no, definitely not Abaddon. It was an as name. I'm probably just thinking of Azazel. A lot of people equate it with Azrael. I don't, but a lot of people do. So what happens if I do this? And yet, why do we call Azrael actually means God has helped, and also other translations, angel of God or help from God. Where does the death come into this? It's kind of weird. Anyway, Lotion Azazel, that's the name for the Islamic devil, apparently. Yeah, it's also another spelling of Azazel. It's just the I instead of the E. It's probably just a language difference. Kerry, angels vibrate at a higher frequency, correct? Yeah, I think we can probably say that. Don't really like using that term though, vibrating at a higher frequency. It tends to give the impression that because we talk about we have this whole idea of power hierarchies in our society, and we have to kind of put things on different levels of power. And so when we talk about being at a higher frequency than something else, it kind of gives this impression that the other thing is lower and therefore not as important or not as powerful. Definitely not true. Um, English language just fails half the time. Lowton, funnily enough, found out many of these names were found for Chemosh too. Probably. Again, it comes to regions, it comes to language, culture, names change. For example, you have Uriel, but then there's Camosur, which is the same name but named for Chemosh. Yep. We're talking about thousands and thousands of years of evolution and movement and migrations and trading routes, and I mean, gotta understand that these names get passed from one culture to another, and it could be simply. I mean, you go to England, and you go from one little village into the next little village, and the accent's completely and utterly different. I mean, half the time you don't know what people are talking about because you got used to that accent, and all of a sudden there's this accent, and it's like, what the hell are these people saying? And it's just all you did was like drive down the road, kind of thing. So even in an instance like that, um, you might find that people kind of did trade in one village, and then they went back home, and they got told all these stories about this particular god. And they went back home, and because their accent's so much different, they pronounced it differently, and that pronunciation got fed on to the people within the other village, and it became this different name. It's the same entity, but it's just a different name. And then also, as I keep saying, that when we talk about the gods moving from place to place and culture to culture, they kind of like added a bit extra to the story, to the tale, to the myth, and it became a slightly different entity, which then becomes an egregore, a branch. The from the original, it keeps branching off into different directions because it keeps getting these things changed, bits added and bits taken away, and all of this stuff. So you consider that just from one little village to the next little village in England, and then you think about thousands of years of migration and trading throughout the world. Europe, India, and the Indus Valley, and all of those, Greece, and everywhere, Egypt, etc., etc. It just, yeah, huge change, huge evolutions. Lowton, you said there are two branches of the same culture. The languages in question are often one for one, like with these names. There's Chemosh versions of Nathaniel and Daniel as well. Yeah. But again, it might just be local dialects or local accents, just pronounced something different. Certain people really don't like it when you point out there was also a Baal Ja. Yes, that is exactly what you think. What you think it is. Who you think it is. Who's that? I don't know. Because there is actually if you have a look at the end of angelic names, it usually ends in L or Ia. One's receptive, one's active. Receptive and yeah, whatever. But Mastros actually takes the Ia and makes it a Ja, which I think is quite interesting. Anyway, it's time for me to go. So, I will see everybody next week. Thank you for being here. It's been fun. Oh, I kind of slumped to the wrong side of the camera there, didn't I? Yeah, I hate saying that name, Yahweh. It's very disrespectful. I'm going to start, whenever I see that name, I'm going to start saying